It started with a text I wasn't supposed to see. A stupid, forgettable string of words that somehow set fire to the last 4 years of my life. Can't wait to see you again, winky face. This weekend can't come fast enough. I didn't recognize the number, but I recognized the tone. Playful, flirty, familiar. It was midnight. We were curled up in bed, her head on my chest, soft breathing syncing with mine. I'd picked up her phone to set an alarm because mine was dead. That's when it lit up. That's when everything cracked. Her name is Alina, 27, graphic designer. We met when I was volunteering at a gallery show, and she came in to do freelance branding work. She had this messy bun and a leather sketchbook tucked under her arm like a shield. The kind of woman who laughs with her eyes and quotes movies no one else remembers. We hit it off in minutes. Moved in together after a year. Everyone said we were one of those couples, the kind that just makes sense. My name's Theo. I'm 32, work in IT for a mid-sized architecture firm. I like routines. Mornings start with black coffee, evenings with reruns of Futurama or random Reddit holes. I'm not flashy. Not some alpha male chest pounder. Just dependable. I thought that was enough. Apparently not. The next morning, I didn't say anything about the message. I wanted to believe it was a wrong number. I told myself I'd misread it. Maybe it was one of her friends being cheeky. I was rationalizing because the truth felt like swallowing glass. She kissed me goodbye like she always did. Called me babe. Said she'd be home late from a pitch meeting. I nodded. She left. I stayed home from work. And I called someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Liam. My cousin. My used-to-be best friend. Until 3 years ago when we had the kind of falling out you don't come back from. Long story short, he borrowed a couple thousand from me when he was out of work. Said he'd pay it back in 6 months. I never saw a dime. Then I found out he'd used it to invest in some crypto pump-and-dump scheme, made 10 grand off it, and never told me. I confronted him. He shrugged it off. Said I shouldn't lend money if I couldn't afford to lose it. I told him to get out of my life. He did. Until now. I wasn't sure why I called him. Some desperate part of me, I guess. The part that remembered Liam had always been good at finding things out. Unapologetically nosy. Shamelessly resourceful. I figured if anyone could dig into a mysterious number, it was him. He answered on the second ring. Well, damn, he said. The prodigal cousin returns. You finally calling to forgive me, or are you dying and need someone to donate a kidney? Neither, I said. I need a favor. You must be real desperate. I am. I gave him the number. Didn't tell him whose phone it came from or what it meant. He didn't ask. Just said he'd get back to me in a few hours. I spent those hours pacing, scrubbing dishes that were already clean, staring at the photo on the fridge of me and Alina at the Grand Canyon. Her arms around my neck, hair blowing wild in the wind. She looked like she belonged there. I looked like I was trying not to drop my phone. When Liam called back, his tone had changed. Bro, he said. You sure you want to know this? Tell me. He hesitated. Then, the number belongs to a guy named Marcus Vale. Works in sales for one of those boutique travel companies. Big on social media. Instagram model vibes. Drives a Tesla. Lives in that new high-rise by the harbor. I knew the building. Alina had once pointed it out. Said she loved the architecture. Said it reminded her of something out of Blade Runner. Here's the kicker, Liam added. He's got a private account, but I got in through a dummy profile. Yes, who's liked every single one of his last 10 posts. I didn't say anything. Your girl, man. She even commented on one. Little fire emoji under a pic of him shirtless on a boat. That was 3 days ago. The walls felt like they were closing in. I sat down on the kitchen floor. The tiles were cold under my legs. I stared at the oven timer until it blurred. Thanks, I said. You okay? Liam asked. No. Want me to? No. I'll handle it. He didn't press. We hung up. That night, I said nothing to Alina. Made dinner like usual. Stir fry and jasmine rice. She talked about her pitch meeting. I nodded, smiled, even laughed in the right places. But something inside me had shifted. Something slow and silent and irreversible. Because it wasn't just the cheating. It was the ease of it. The familiarity. Like I was a placeholder in my own life, and she was just waiting for the next upgrade. She went to bed early. Said she was tired. I stayed up. Went through her laptop when she was asleep. Found a hidden folder labeled Art Projects. It wasn't art. It was him. Photos. Screenshots. Messages. One read, I don't know how much longer I can pretend with Theo. I feel like I'm suffocating. Another, I wish I could wake up next to you instead. A third, he's good for now. But you're the future. That was the moment something inside me calcified. Some slow-burn resolve started to form. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was a pattern. One I'd missed. One I was done playing along with. I thought I'd known her. Thought I was building a life. Turns out, I was building someone else's safety net. And now? Now I was going to unravel everything. One thread at a time. By the next morning, I had a plan. Not revenge. Not yet. First came clarity. I needed to know everything. The who, the when, the why. And I needed it without tipping her off. So I did what any emotionally imploding, sleep-deprived guy might do. I played the part. Smiled over breakfast. Kissed her forehead when she left. Told her to have a great day. Then I went straight to her office. Alina freelanced out of a co-working space downtown. I'd never actually been inside. Just picked her up out front a few times. I knew she was usually there late on Wednesdays. Said it helped her focus when no one else was around. I sat in the cafe across the street for an hour, nursing bitter espresso and trying to pretend this was normal. Around 8:15 p.m., she walked out. But she wasn't alone. She was laughing, head tilted back the way she did when she was truly charmed. Next to her was a tall guy in a fitted trench coat and scarf, hair slicked back like he belonged in a cologne ad. Marcus. I knew it before he turned. The posture, the swagger, the too-perfect smile. He touched her elbow as they crossed the street. She let him. They didn't kiss, but the intimacy was thick, like it already lived in the space between them. They walked past my cafe without noticing me, turned the corner toward the high-rise by the harbor. So much for late work nights. I followed. From a distance. Just far enough not to get caught, but close enough to confirm what I already knew. They went up to his place. I didn't need to follow them inside. I went home, poured myself a whiskey I didn't even want, and stared at our shared bookshelf. Every title now felt like a prop on a stage I didn't know I was on. I was half drunk and about to scroll back through those messages again when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Hey, we need to talk. I think you deserve to know something. Chloe. I stared at the message. I didn't know any Chloe. I texted back. Who is this? I'm Marcus's ex. Well, sort of. It's complicated. But I saw your name on one of his old chats. You were mentioned. I have a feeling we've been lied to by the same person. My heart started thudding. I asked her to call. She did. Her voice was calm, maybe too calm. I'm not trying to make anything worse, she said. I just figured. If someone had warned me 6 months ago, I could have saved myself a lot of damage. I asked her what she meant. Turned out, Marcus had a pattern. He got off on taking. Not just women, situations. He liked inserting himself into already established relationships. Friends, coworkers, cousins. Chloe had been with someone when they met. Marcus made it a game. He seduced her, manipulated her, then ghosted her the minute she left her partner. That was the twist. Marcus hadn't just happened to meet Alina. He'd picked her. Because of me. Because he knew me. I almost dropped the phone. I don't understand, I said. How would he even know who I am? There was a pause. You work at Culver Tech, right? Yeah. My ex does too. He's in DevOps. Used to mention you. I closed my eyes. There it was. Some chain reaction of casual conversations and office gossip that gave Marcus just enough info to find his next target. Me. He saw my name in an email, saw me tagged in a photo, heard about me. That was all he needed. Alina was just the challenge, Chloe added. He doesn't care about her. He never cares about any of them. After we hung up, I sat there for what felt like an hour. The whiskey was warm in my hand. My throat tight. I wasn't just collateral damage. I was the objective. This man had looked at my life and decided it was a puzzle to solve. A game to win. Alina was the prize. And now that he'd won her, I knew what would come next. He'd disappear. And she'd be left with the wreckage, wondering how she ever thought she was in control. But I wasn't going to let that happen quietly. No, because this wasn't just about betrayal anymore. This was about someone turning my life into a sport. And I'd be damned if I let the game end with me on the bench. I started planning. Real planning. Digital breadcrumbs. Personal contacts. Legal vulnerabilities. I didn't know what I was building yet. But I knew what the foundation was made of. Rage. And precision. For the next 6 days, I became someone else. Not Theo the dependable. Not the pushover who picked up takeout and laughed at jokes he didn't find funny. I became quiet. Focused. Surgical. I made spreadsheets. Lists. Cross-reference timestamps from Alina's calendar with message backups Chloe had sent me. created a private folder on a secure drive, bought a burner phone, installed a password manager. Every tool I used at work for network audits, I repurposed. But this time, the system I was probing wasn't a server, it was them. I stayed in the apartment, told Alina I had a project deadline and needed to work remotely. She didn't argue. Why would she? She thought I was clueless. Still useful. Still safe. She kissed me goodbye every morning before heading out, her lips warm and dry against my cheek. I didn't flinch. I memorized everything. Thursday night, she came home giddy. Said her team landed a big account and they were going to celebrate tomorrow. I asked if I could come. She hesitated, just for a second, then forced a smile and said it was just a small group thing. I nodded, poured her wine, made dinner like always. That night, when she fell asleep with her back to me, I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the soft hum of the radiator, repeating her lies in my head until they stopped stinging and started sounding like data points. By Friday, I had a working timeline. Chloe confirmed Marcus had first started messaging Alina through a comment on one of her design posts. A flame emoji, of course. The digital mating call of the emotionally bankrupt. They moved from DMs to text within a week. Video calls within 2. He was strategic, always choosing moments when I was in meetings, on work trips, or, most sickeningly, helping her family with errands. There were even messages where she joked about how cute it was that I was still trying. But here's what made my stomach turn. Marcus didn't just want her. He mocked me, called me her emotional support hamster, claimed she needed him to wake her up, said he was doing her a favor by rescuing her from that beige little life. It wasn't love. It was conquest. And I'd been their inside joke. Until now. I contacted Chloe again, told her I wanted to meet in person. She agreed. We sat on a park bench by the river, bundled in coats, sipping from paper cups of burnt coffee. She was sharper in person, calm, detached, like someone who'd already bled and scabbed over. I've got a favor to ask, I said. She raised an eyebrow. I figured this was coming. Do you still have that fake Insta profile you used to get into his account? She grinned. Of course I do. It's how I found the last 3 girls he pulled this on. I need it. Just for a couple days. She handed over the login without another word. That night, I became someone new again. A woman named Val. She was 28, art curator, recently relocated from Boston. Beautiful in an understated way. Her profile was tasteful, sunlight on wooden floors, coffee cups near hardcover books, glimpses of bare collarbones. Marcus followed her within a day. I started commenting. Light stuff. Witty, curious, mysterious. He took the bait. By Sunday morning, we were DMing. By Sunday night, he was telling Val about his crazy week. How women were always too attached. How he was ready for something real. I felt dirty. But I didn't stop. On Monday, I sent a carefully staged message. I've got a bit of a past, full transparency. I used to be involved with someone who turned out to be taken. Found out too late. Got played hard. I just don't want that again. He replied instantly. No games here. I'm done with messy people. I want real connections now. I screenshotted everything. All of it. Saved it to the drive. Timestamped. Cataloged. Duplicated. Tuesday, I made my move. Alina had a presentation in the morning. Said she'd be out until at least 2 p.m. The second she left, I drove straight to Marcus's building. Not to confront him. To leave a gift. I walked in confidently, nodded at the front desk, rode the elevator up to his floor like I belonged there. His hallway was sterile. Echoey. I found his door. Slid a small padded envelope under it. Inside? A USB stick. And a note. What you take for sport, I take personally. Might want to start watching your back. The hamster. I left, took a deep breath in the parking garage, and drove home. That afternoon, I watched Alina walk through the door like nothing was wrong. She tossed her bag on the counter, kissed my cheek, and poured herself a glass of rose. I asked her how her day was. She said it was fine. Same old. I asked her if anything weird happened. She blinked, shook her head. Interesting. Apparently, Marcus hadn't told her. Not yet. Maybe he didn't know how to explain the anonymous threat from a fake woman he'd been flirting with while already poaching someone else's girlfriend. Maybe he was trying to find me. Let him look. I wasn't hiding anymore. I was watching, listening, and waiting. By Wednesday, the tension had turned solid. You could feel it in the walls of our apartment, in the air between every word Alina spoke. Something had shifted. She didn't say it, but I could see it. She was on edge, checking her phone constantly, tapping her foot during dinner, jumping slightly whenever I spoke too suddenly. The next morning, she asked if I'd changed any of her passwords. It was so abrupt it almost made me laugh. No, I said. Why? She looked at me for a long moment, then shook her head and forced a smile. Never mind. Probably just a glitch. Right. Glitch. Sure. What she didn't know was that Chloe had gone even further than I'd expected. After our last meeting, she'd reached out to another woman Marcus had targeted, someone named Elise. Turns out Marcus had burned a small but vocal group of exes, each with their own horror stories. Gaslighting, ghosting, sudden disappearances. Women he dropped as soon as he'd broken the other guy in the triangle. And this time, these women were talking. Chloe and Elise had already started gathering screenshots, videos, audio messages. Chloe even suggested creating a private Instagram page to post it all, an anonymous archive. I wasn't ready for that step yet, but I told her to hold on to everything, every shred of it, because this wasn't just personal anymore. It was a pattern of destruction, and it needed to be documented. Meanwhile, I had another fire to light. I knew Marcus had a sponsorship deal with a travel brand, Nexum Adventures. I also knew from my digging that he'd been using photos from unrelated destinations, passing them off as client perks, when in reality, he hadn't set foot in half the countries he bragged about. One of the photos he used as a recent trip to Portugal was actually a stock image. I reverse-searched it and traced the original to a European content site. That was enough. I sent an anonymous email to Nexum's media division, attaching side-by-side comparisons of Marcus's doctored photos, including timestamps, metadata, and public posts he'd used to build the lie. I used a fresh burner email. No name. No trace. 3 days later, Marcus's Instagram had a cryptic story. Taking a break from social for a bit. Mental health matters. Be kind. Of course. The PR damage control classic. But Alina still hadn't said anything, which meant Marcus hadn't told her about Val. Or about the USB. Why? Because he didn't know who to trust anymore. Good. Let the paranoia bloom. Then, late Friday night, it happened. I was on the couch, laptop open, half watching some random documentary about coral reefs when Alina came out of the bedroom. She wasn't in pajamas. She was dressed. Jeans, hoodie, sneakers. No makeup. Theo, she said, her voice soft. I need to tell you something. I closed my laptop. Looked at her. Just waited. She didn't sit. There's someone else, she said. No tears. No drama. Just a confession, raw and clinical. Like she was trying to amputate a limb without anesthesia. I nodded slowly. I know. That stunned her. You what? I've known for a while. She blinked once. Twice. How long? Since last week. She stared at me, eyes scanning for a reaction. Rage. Despair. Begging. She found none. How? I shrugged. Does it matter? She swallowed hard. I didn't mean for it to happen. Yes, I said. You did. Her eyes filled. She sat on the edge of the armrest across from me. I didn't want to hurt you. Then you shouldn't have. She stopped herself. I felt invisible. Like I was sleepwalking. And then Marcus just saw me. Did he? I asked. She hesitated. At first. I don't know anymore. The silence stretched. I waited. I think I made a mistake, she whispered. He's not what I thought. I leaned forward slightly. Then why are you still seeing him? Her lips trembled. I'm not. I raised an eyebrow. I haven't heard from him in days, she said. He's gone cold. I texted him yesterday, and he didn't even open it. There it was. The unraveling. I wanted to feel vindicated. But I didn't. All I felt was the dull ache of déjà vu. Like I was watching someone else's tragedy on a stage I'd already walked off. I'll pack some things, she said quietly. Give you space. No. Her head jerked up. You're not leaving yet, I said. Not until I say so. She stared at me, stunned. There are things you need to see. Things about Marcus. About what he's done. Not just to you, but to others. I stood up, walked past her, opened the hallway closet, and pulled out the printout folder I'd prepared. It wasn't everything. Just the curated version. The greatest hits. I handed it to her without a word. She opened it. Each page hit like a slap. Screenshots. Timelines. Message threads from Chloe, Elise. The Val conversation. Each lie laid bare. When she finished, she was crying. She didn't try to deny it. Didn't try to justify. Just whispered, "What have I done?" I didn't answer. She stayed on the couch for over an hour, clutching the folder like it could explain something. Eventually, she asked if I wanted her to leave. I said yes. She packed in silence. No yelling. No apology speeches. Just quiet, efficient retreat. When she closed the door behind her, I stood in the hallway for a long time, listening to the elevator descend. Then I locked the door, sat back down, and finally, let myself breathe. The apartment was silent for the first time in weeks. Not a cautious silence, not the kind padded with tension, but real silence. A space cleared of lies. I should have felt lighter. Instead, I felt suspended. Like everything had stopped midair and I was just waiting to see where it would land. Alina was gone. Most of her things had vanished within hours. The framed photos, the sketchbooks, the half-used vanilla shampoo bottle in the shower. Gone. Even the stupid mismatched mug she insisted made mornings quirky. It took me 2 days to finally strip the bed and wash the sheets. I threw out the rest of her tea collection. I didn't want reminders. But it was Marcus I couldn't get rid of. He was still out there. He hadn't responded to Val in days. His Instagram was frozen. His usual activity had flatlined. Chloe told me he blocked her on everything. Elise said he'd ghosted their entire group thread. For someone who lived for the game, he'd gone quiet. Too quiet. Saturday afternoon, I got the call. Blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. The message was short, calm, controlled. Hey, Theo. It's Marcus. We should talk. Soon. There are things I think you'll want to hear. Things you don't know yet. No apology. No panic. Just that flat, amused tone he used in his videos. I didn't call him back. Sunday, another blocked number. Another voicemail. This time, he sounded different. I know you're the one who sent the USB. Impressive. Really? But it's not over. You don't know the whole story. Alina was never just collateral. You think she was a pawn, but well, I guess you'll figure it out. Eventually. Click. Something inside me tensed. What did he mean? Never just collateral. I replayed the message. Over and over. And that's when I noticed the tone. It wasn't defensive. It was smug. Like he still had a card left to play. I tried to shake it off. Maybe it was another mind game. Another attempt to pull me back into the spiral. But I couldn't let it go. I texted Chloe. Asked her to do a deep dive. Not on Marcus, but on Alina. I had never done that before. It felt wrong. Creepy. But necessary. 2 days later, Chloe sent me a zip file. Inside? Court records. Alina had once filed a restraining order. Not against Marcus. Against a man named Cal Benson. An ex. From 3 years ago. That wasn't the twist. The twist was Cal Benson wasn't her ex. He was her former fiancé. I felt the blood drain from my face. I read through the legal complaint. It was vague. Allegations of emotional abuse, manipulation, financial threats. But no criminal charges. The order had expired within a year. I searched my memory, trying to place the name. She had never mentioned a fiancé. Not once. There was more. Chloe found an archived wedding website under Alina's name. A half-built Wix page. Registry still intact. They were supposed to get married in Vermont. 2 years before we met. I texted Chloe, can you find out how that ended? She responded an hour later. Found a Reddit post. Looks like Cal's sister vented about it after everything went down. Claimed Alina took $15,000 from their joint savings and disappeared the week of the wedding. Cal was blindsided. Had to cancel everything. Broke his lease. Lost his job. The works. I reread that 3 times. Then I opened my banking app. Alina and I had a shared savings account. We'd used it for rent, furniture, and the occasional vacation. She never touched it after the breakup. Said she didn't want anything that reminded her of the mess. I never thought to check the actual withdrawals. When I did, my stomach turned. 2 days before she left, she moved $6,400 to her personal account. And I hadn't noticed. I hadn't even looked. Not until now. I called the bank. They confirmed the transfer had authorization, but they couldn't reverse it. Her name was still on the account when it happened. I didn't tell Chloe. I didn't tell anyone. I sat in my dark apartment, staring at the screen, realization slowly consuming me. Marcus was a predator, yes. But Alina? She'd done this before. I was never just a victim of one man's twisted game. I was a chapter in her cycle. And she, just like Marcus, chose people she thought wouldn't fight back. Just like Cal. Just like me. And maybe, just maybe, she hadn't fallen for Marcus. Maybe she'd used him. Because if she'd done it once, to someone she was supposed to marry, why not do it again? I finally understood Marcus's message. Alina wasn't the pawn. She was another player. And maybe she played us both. I couldn't sleep that night. Everything I'd thought I understood about her, about the betrayal, even about Marcus, was now smeared in static. The script had flipped again. It wasn't just a triangle anymore. It was a circle, no clear start or end. Just an endless loop of people using each other for ego, escape, or revenge. Alina and Marcus had both lied. That much was certain. But now I wasn't sure who lied first. Or who was leading who. And somewhere in all of it, I had been asleep. I didn't want revenge anymore. I wanted out. So I made one final move. I called Kel Benson. I wasn't sure if he'd even answer. The number was scraped from an old real estate site he used for part-time work. But when he picked up, he sounded guarded. Suspicious. Cal? This is gonna sound strange, but I think we've both been through something similar. I'm calling about Alina. Silence. Then a bitter laugh. Join the club. I told him everything. From the first message to the last voicemail. I didn't leave anything out. And when I was done, Cal said, she drained me. Not just the account. My confidence. My sense of judgment. I started therapy because I thought I was the problem. I said I understood. Because I did. He added, you're not the first to reach out. A guy from Seattle messaged me last year. Same story. Said she moved in, played the part, emptied his savings, left after starting an affair with his boss. How many people has she done this to? Enough to make you wonder if it's a compulsion or a business model. We didn't talk long. But when I hung up, I felt something settle in me. Closure. Not the satisfying, movie-ending kind, but the kind that comes from looking at a thing in full daylight and finally accepting it for what it is. She was a con artist with good taste in candles. Marcus was a manipulator who hated being played. And me? I'd spent years calling myself steady when what I really meant was passive. That night, I poured everything I had, screenshots, bank records, timelines, into a final, locked Google Drive. Sent a copy to myself. One to Chloe. One to Cal. I deleted the burner. Tossed the USB. Cleared out the fake account. I cleaned the apartment. Top to bottom. Scrubbed every room until the air felt new again. Then I wrote a short, final message to Alina. I didn't expect her to respond. I didn't care if she did. It read, I hope one day you understand the difference between survival and destruction. You mistook my silence for weakness. You weren't the first. I won't make that mistake again. Theo. I blocked her number. Deleted the thread. Not out of anger, but because I didn't want access anymore. And just like that, it was done. The game was over. Weeks passed. Chloe and I kept in touch, barely. A few texts here and there. Mostly about random things. She seemed better. So did I. Elise eventually messaged me to say she and two others had anonymously reported Marcus to several of his brand partners. One had already dropped him. Another started an internal investigation. Marcus never retaliated. Alina never reappeared. I found a new apartment in a quieter neighborhood. No more shared accounts. No more toothbrushes in the wrong holder. Just me. And peace. Sometimes the peace felt empty. But most nights, it felt like breathing after being underwater for too long. Last week, I ran into an old friend from college at a bookstore. We got coffee. Talked for hours. No agenda. Just two people catching up without hidden motives. And you know what? That felt revolutionary. Not exciting. Not electric. But safe. And after everything, that's what I wanted most. One night, I opened the drawer where I'd shoved the last photo of me and Alina. I stared at it for a while. We looked so happy. So convincing. Then I turned it over, wrote the word lesson on the back, and slid it into the shredder. There was no dramatic music. No applause. Just the hum of paper becoming pieces. I didn't need revenge anymore. I had truth. And that was enough.